checking the outside edges. Scooping underneath the foot and bringing the hand up to the Dan Shen. And then just the breathing. The head and the tail pointing back a little, and then the head and the tail pointing forwards a little. And now turning a little. Try and get the turning from the action of the feet on the ground rather than the waist. So here, this foot is pushing this way and this foot is pushing this way in order to twist the hips round. And then both feet are pulling together. And then both feet are pushing apart. And then just bring the attention to the back leg. So here, my right leg. So it's pushing the ground and it's trying to twist out. Now what starts the pull back is this leg. This leg tries to twist this way and it pulls. And now this one is pushing and then it's pulling. So this is pushing and now it's pulling until I get to the front, and then it pushes to get this hip to move relatively back relative to the foot. Both legs are pulling, both legs are pushing. But the one that's easiest to feel it in is the back leg, really. This leg is pushing, and then because it's pushed, so it's extreme, it's straight almost, the pulling is relatively easy to feel. But similarly, this leg is pushed this back, and then it just bends to pull this hip back. and then just knocking the gates of life. So it's the same thing, but now I pull back to the front and my hands strike front and back. The turning to the side separates the arms, and then turning back to the front brings the fists in to strike your Dantian and Min Meng. And then let's just try the second warm-up exercise. So this is very similar to that one we started with, where we're just scooping under the foot. We're just turning into the other leg, really. We're just trying to develop a root. So trying to get the foot to feel as though it's opening up, so that my energy can penetrate through and into the floor. So I'm not resting on the floor, I'm sinking into it. This is the feeling. And that requires me to do something with my own spirit to melt the surface of the floor so that my energy can get through. So this is why using the feet on the ground to turn rather than the waist is so important, because we have to split the body really into two halves that are just working cooperatively. Otherwise, the holding on here to hold yourself into one won't let the feet open up. So the ground will always just be a hard surface upon which you're standing. We want it to open up so that we can melt into it. It's just a feeling, but everything starts off as a feeling and slowly with practice becomes a reality. So something in me melts through the ground. Like a pool of liquid underneath the surface of the ground, and we just want to dip into it and just siphon a little bit of it up. So I'm sinking with my weight, but also this foot is pushing the ground a little bit to add just a tiny bit more to this leg. You need just a little bit more, you know, the 4 ounces onto the 1,000 pounds makes all the difference. So I'm sinking down the leg, but now this leg is pushing, driving me into this leg. And back to riding horse. And now let's just flex the spine this way. Feeling as though I'm allowing the hand to drop down through that hole in my foot and into the ground. And then it's like I just draw something up. Really opening the foot. Something in me has to relax to allow the foot to open. John said, when you get it, it feels like the sole of your foot has just collapsed onto the ground. It's almost becoming flat-footed. And my tail is also going down into this foot. So I don't want to lean with the spine, but to bend it. So my head is going this way, but my tail is going this way as well. as though your hand can just dip into the floor and just draw something out. And then just back to riding horse. Feel the heels. Now let's just work a bit with the wall. Make sure you've got the outside edges parallel again. And then just placing your hands on the wall, not leaning very much, just a little bit maybe, and just feel it. So always a slight bend in the legs. Just build up a little bit of strength in the arms. If you just pressed slightly into the wall, it would drive you down into the legs. So simply by adding a little bit of pressure with your hands on the wall, you can get a streaming down through you stronger than gravity can provide. And then you just want to get the feet to just open up, just relaxing the sacrum and the legs so that that can similarly stimulate a flow upwards from the floor. So eventually it's just the arms are sort of fighting the legs and the legs are fighting the arms. And then just push the hands upwards and just drive yourself down a little bit. You don't need to go down very far, just a few inches, and then pull the wall down with your hands and let that bring your body up. And then again down. Try and get it to come from the action of the arms. So my arms pull and my body will float upwards. My hands push and my body will sink. And then a wider stance, again with the outside edges parallel. And now just moving yourself side to side from foot to foot using the wall. So I'm using my hands on the wall. So I'm pushing the wall one way and my body will go the other way. So make sure it's the arms that are moving you. Your legs are supporting the movement and supporting your weight, but the arms are responsible for moving the body. And when you get to the end of the line, just make sure, just push even stronger with the arms to make sure you are 100% in that leg. And then reverse it. And then just bringing the feet up now to a narrower stance, again with the outside edges parallel. And now I'm just going to push the wall in order to effectuate a turn. So I'm going to push with my right hand, and that's going to turn me to the right. It will either turn me to the right or it will knock me over backwards. I don't want it to do that. And then you push with the other arm, and that will turn you the other way. So you're just turning the hips, but using the arms. Straighten this arm, and it will move this hip backwards. And then I'll straighten this arm. The push with the hand is just moving your shoulder back, and your shoulder and your hip are sort of locked together. So if my shoulder moves, then my hip moves with it. Trying to just keep the legs relaxing so that the hips can stay level naturally. So the reason we do these is because the legs can just be a little bit more relaxed than they are when the legs are having to be responsible for moving you. Now they can just concentrate on just relaxing, staying loose, and just allowing my hips to just remain flat. So there's no tilt in the hips. And now let's just lean on the wall. Bringing the feet a little bit further away. Feeling the heavy sacrum wanting to make the spine vertical. So effectively you have two back legs now. And just gently shift the weight slightly from leg to leg so that you're not stuck in the middle. What we're looking for today is that the flow down through the leg of the tentacle that becomes the root when it enters the ground. So as I bring my weight into the leg, there's something that surges down the leg. And then if I can just melt the ground, it will go into the ground. And only when that happens can I lift the other leg without tensing. We need to develop a presence, an energetic presence under the ground, in the earth. It's what Charles Olson called the subterranean lake. So something that you just dip into. Whenever you feel like it. And then just turning and just leaning on it with the back. Again, with the outside edges parallel. And now, like the two sides of your sacrum become like your hands were when we were leaning the other way. So I'm sort of rocking. So when you work softly, but with a certain firmness, then these hard surfaces feel as though they become a little bit rubbery and flexible. So when I sink here into this side, it's like the hollow opens up in the wall to allow me in. And the same with the feet. When I sink into my foot almost sinks into the ground like it's mud. And then you can just figure of eight a little bit. The figure of eight is our machine for taking us into like a trance state where everything changes. And then just into riding horse, but with the back still on the wall. Feel the sacrum really pressuring back. Feel the heels wanting to twist out even more. And feel the toes coming in as your hands. And just relax into it. So there's a sense that the sacrum is slipping down the wall. If your legs are too tense, it will feel like it's pushing up the wall. And then just bringing it up. But just stepping to the side, concentrating on really emptying down the leg that's going to support me and into the ground. So I'm going to come into this leg and I'm simply going to, all I'm going to do is this. Yeah. So just stepping 1, move the weight, 2, 3, step up, 1, move the weight and step up. But we're going to just try and this sinking into the ground. Something in me goes down into the ground. I just have to really see that in my mind's eye. And now into the ground. So the leg is working very differently than normal. Normally I would put the foot on the ground and then as I come into it, it would get firm so that this leg can lift up. So now we really want that feeling that something has flowed down and into the ground. So it's a very different mind, a mind that is encouraging energy to flow and encouraging the ground to open up so that it can go into it. So just imagine that the ground is just soft, dry sand, and it just opens up to engulf your foot. Okay, so let's just bring it up to attention. So again, with the outside edges forwards. Feel the looseness around the sacrum. It all comes from that, really. To get into energy, the energy that John was interested in, which is not chi. It's more like this detail, this color, like the butterfly, or he called it the dragonfly. Imagine an iridescent dragonfly hovering, flitting around. So that's what the energy is like. But it all comes really from just loosening around here. And that just requires the mind to become relatively quiet. Remember that story of Chong Song Feng, the guy that invented Tai Chi, walking in the snow. And as he walked, his energy just melted the snow. So what was behind him was, you saw just the grass, but from each footstep, flowers started coming up. So it's like that. It's like everything that you touch has like a new color, a new aura. And then the mind being quiet is not a forced thing. It's just quiet because it's just so interested in energy and it sees energy everywhere. To think to itself would be an absolute defilement. So we all tend to operate from the basic assumption that there's nothing quite as interesting or as important as ourselves. So we just need to reverse that. Everything, literally everything, is more interesting and more important than we are. More important than our sense of self. Because that really gets in the way of you experiencing the world. And of the world opening up because of you.